So the last thing we learned about was the concept of sorry. So the last thing we learned about was the concept of onim hapet becharara. Today's daf is nuntes. Sorry, onim hapet becharara, where the poor person was actually saw this object on the ground. According to Rashi, was hefker, and he was trying to obtain it, and somebody else jumps in and takes it away. That's called an onim hapet becharara, and nikra Russia because you're taking away from his livelihood. And the remaining Tom says, no, in that case, there is no anim hapechorah because you can't tell him go somewhere else to find it. He got there first. Interesting, there's an argument when it says nikra Russia, whichever way you learn. According to the main time, it's talking about somebody's trying to buy something and you can buy it elsewhere, go somewhere else. Unless it's something that you cannot buy anywhere else. And that's why, in fact, so we say, if, for example, the guy, you can buy somewhere else, but here it's being discounted and that you cannot get it at this price somewhere else, then it's not called Kodesh Tam. It's not called Onim Happy B'Charari. You have every single right to gazump the other person and buy it instead of him. If that person, the other person is negotiating, you can go in and buy it whatever price it is and take it away from them. But interesting is Machlekes Rishonim when you say Nikra Russia. So therefore, what does that mean? That the person has to actually return it, or it means you can the kinyan you made is effective, but it's very nasty what you did, and it's immoral. Anyway, we are up to the Gemara now, the two dots. In our Mishnah said, if a person said to a woman, you're engaged to me after 30 days, and then another person came along and said to her and engaged her straight away, so we say that the second person is the one engaged. The first one is not engaged till after the 30 days, and the second one came along and said on the 15th day, you're engaged to me today, so therefore she's mekudesh to the second person 100%, and if he's a kohen, she can eat trum and so on. That's the ratio of the Mishnah. The sake of the Mishnah was, if he says to a woman, you're engaged to me me'achsha from today, but after 30 days. And we'll see in the Gemara, how do we interpret that? Then another person came along, day number 15, and gave her Kiddushin. Now, it could be when you say ma'achshav after 30 days, it becomes retrospective. When the 30 days come up, it's retrospective. You engaged me 30 days ago. But this other person came day number 15. That was before it actually became effective retrospectively. So that person there in the day number 15 came along and gave Kiddushin. So she's sort of in between the first person or the second person. And therefore, we say that she's sort of engaged to both of them. And if she's married to a kohen, she cannot eat truma. If she was a bas kohen, married to Yisrael, she engaged to Yisrael, she cannot eat truma because we're sort of in limbo. We'll see in the Gemara later what the story is. So says the Gemara, the Chenoim Elisha's Kachali. What happens if loibo acher? Let's say nobody else came along. A man says to a woman, you're engaged to me, and in 30, gave her some money, and he said, in 30 days from now, you're engaged to me. No one else came along. But the translation, Mao, what's the din then? Is it a valid Kiddushin or not? Because you're saying it's not Kiddushin now, it'll be Kiddushin after 30 days. Says the Gemara, of course she's engaged. Comes day number 30, she's engaged. And what's the Kiddush in that? Why not? The Kiddush is, even though the money that he gave her today is gone when it comes to day number 30, and that's the day the Kiddushin is supposed to take effect, day number 30, and there's nothing, you didn't give her a day number 30, you gave it today, and she might have spent the money already. So what's the Kiddushin? Nevertheless, it's effective. L'chayda, isn't it a loan until day number 30? No. My time, what's the reason? The money you gave her, is not comparable to a loan, nor is it comparable to so you gave her for safekeeping. It's not, the din is if you give her something for safekeeping, and then you say to her a month later, okay, it's my object, you can keep it. It only is valid if the object is still in the house. But if the object is prepared or was stolen, then she's not engaged. Because what are you giving her now? What you gave her then was only as to mine for you, and now you're giving it to her. There's nothing to give. But so the same thing would be here. No, it's not comparable to Pekadon. Why? Because Pekadon, which is the Marika Mesachlet, over there it belonged to the original owner until the day that he gave it to her, and so it disappeared before he gave it to her. Over here, he gave it to her initially, day number 1, that you can have it. So when he actually gave it to her already with the money in her hands, the problem is day number 30 is no longer there, but day number 1 you gave it to her. And if the money was up, she used it up when it wasn't her, when she really had the right to. So it's like a loan. Why not? Because when you gave it to her as a loan, you said, here, take the money. And the moment it goes into a pocket, you can use it already. And comes day number 30, what do you make? When it comes the date, and you say, no, you can keep the loan, and you're engaged to me. What are you giving her today? The money you gave her last week, she had a right to use. She used it already. The money today, you're not giving any money. Just so therefore, she's not mekudesh. But in our case, you gave her the money for Kiddushin. And therefore, how does Kiddushin give you? They gave it to Kiddushin, so therefore it's valid. So the Rishonim say, but what about if, let's say, you gave her a document to get married, and you said to her, in 30 days from now, we'll be engaged, we'll get engaged, and if the document disappears, then she would not be Mekudesh. But the money, you gave it to her for the sake of Kiddushin, and therefore it's Mekudesh. Based on this, some of the Rishonim learn what happens if he changes his mind, which he can, till day number 30. Does she have to return the money? And they want to argue she doesn't, because if she had to return the money, then tentatively it's like a loan until day number 30, because he can always change his mind and she'd have to pay it back. So how is that any different than any other loan? Must be the moment he gave it to her, it's hers as Kiddushin. If he changes his mind, too bad on him. And he says further, now the question is, what happens? Nobody else came along, but the guy changed his mind. Can he change his mind? Rabbi Yechon said, of course, he can change his mind. He told her he wants to get engaged to her, gave her money, and for 30 days, and 2 weeks later, he changed his mind. Why can't words cancel words? And Rish Lakish says, the words cannot cancel words. Words cannot cancel words. So this is the first version how we understand the argument of Rish Lakish. And right now we think that Rish Lakish holds in general that words cannot cancel words. So we can ask a number of questions where we see that words do. For example, that what happens if somebody appoints a shliach to go ahead and give truma on their behalf, and then bitterly tells, then afterwards he says, you know what? He says, I don't want you to be my shliach. Whether he told the shliach directly in his face or even not in front of his face. If he canceled the shliach before the shliach set aside truma, then the truma of the shliach is not valid because he's no longer shliach. He clearly see that words cancel words. It's words and words and words are canceling words. The question on Reish Lakish says Reish Lakish, you misunderstood me. Words on its own, I agree, do cancel words. Over here, the words came together with an act. You gave her Kiddushin. Right, you gave her money together with the words. The money alone is not effective unless you say words. But since I gave her money and then I said words in 30 days, that's much stronger than just words versus words, and that's why you cannot cancel it. Shiny says, like he didn't act. And words cannot cancel an act. Hey, so that's another question. At least okay. Right now the Gemara understood. Act means just the fact he gave money. Let me ask you a question. We learned in Gittin, if somebody sends a get to his wife via a shliach, and then he meets the shliach a day or two later before the shliach actually transferred the get to the woman, or he sent another shliach to the shliach. But Amar loy get you the he said, look, I want to cancel that get that I gave you to give to my wife. How is it bottom? It's canceled. Now we hear there's a ma'isa also. You gave a get to the shliach. Well, this is get to the shliach. How is it any different than the case of giving money to the woman? He gave a get to the man. And there's a bottom. We still see that what that words can cancel it. Says Gemara, Hasam there nami kol kamel lamati gitli yoda diba v'diberhu. What are you talking about? It's a big difference. By Kiddushin, once you gave her the money, even though she's not yet engaged to you, there's nothing else to be done. Only the words. So it means the Maisa part of it is completed. So even though it's not a complete Maisa yet because it's not effective yet, but the Maisa is pretty strong. Therefore, my words later cannot cancel it. By the Gittin, I gave the get to the Shliach. The Maisa is not completed because he now has to transfer that get to the woman. So because the Maisa itself is incomplete, it's as if the Maisa is non-existent. And that's merely a case of words canceling words. That's why by get, the words can cancel the words and not here by Kiddushin. Now it's Reish Lakish's turn to ask a question to Rabbi Yechon. You hold that words can cancel words. So that's a question. We know when it comes to the laws of Tumah, a sheretz or something touches something, it has to be a receptacle, it has to be a utensil so that it can receive things inside it, and then it's mekabel tumah. Now it's ready to it's fit to become tameh. What happens? You're middle constructing something and you decide, you know what, let's say you're making a utensil, but usually you make nice curvings on the outside. I didn't complete the job and I said, I'm happy the way it is. That machshava, when I say I'm happy the way it is, that completes the work on this utensil, and now it's ready to makabel tumah. But if my thought says, no, I still want to do more work on it, then it's incomplete and it's not makabel tumah yet. So here we see machshava, which is like words, makes the tumah. What happens if after I decided that this is a utensil and it became tumah, and I want to say, you know what, I'm going to cancel my thought and I'm going to continue working on this keli. You cannot, once it becomes tama, machshava not cancel unless you actually modify the keli physically and you change it somehow or another. Why not? You, Rabbi Yechon, said that dibur can cancel dibur, so to machshava can cancel machshava. Why doesn't it do that over here? That's his question. Says all the kelim become tummy machshava. As soon as you think that this is a complete job, ain't oily midday to muslim. But if you want to cancel that, or how do you take away the tumah? You extricate the tumah. You got to physically amend the kelim. So what do we see clearly from here? Maisa moitzi miyad maisa. That if you physically change the keli, alter the keli, that therefore says, okay, it's no longer the complete utensil, and it changes it. Or the maisa umiyad machshava, but machshava, a thought, ein moitzi aloi miyad maisa machshava, but a thought cannot change it any way at all. So once you had a machshava that this is the final keli, that's it. You can't change your mind later. Why? It must be. I understand why machshava can't cancel a ma'aser. We all agree that dibur words cannot cancel an act. El machshava me a topic, but why can't one thought cancel another thought? According to Rabbi Yechon, Shmuel answers that tumah is different. Why? Shiny machshava the tumah dechim ma'aser. Over here, with the moment that you thought that this is the final keli, it's as if you physically made it so, as if you did a ma'aser. How do we know? From the Torah itself. With the Torah says over there, it says over there in the pasuk that if something becomes wet, if let's say plants become wet, and the pasuk is written as if it says ki yitain, that you had to put the water on it, and now it's susceptible to receive tumah. But if that's how it's written. But the way we read it is ki yutan, that the water landed even on its own. So we said that it has to be yutan, similar to yitin. You don't have to physically put the water on, even if it rains. If it's cut off, or if things are already detached from the ground, and you're happy that it got wet. But it had that even though it happened by itself, it's like yitin, as if you did a ma'aser. So the Torah clearly tells us when it comes to tumah, even though you didn't do it, if you had a thought that this is good, that is treated like yitin, like you placed it on the border itself, on it, as if you did a ma'aser. So that's an exception. Says the Gemara, this is what Papa said. Papa has a question. See, it says ki yitin. It's written ki yitin when you place water, which means you have to do an act. But we really ki yitin is the water came on its own. Okay, so how do we reconcile that? Ki yitin, that even though the water came on, it's raining, it has to be similar to yitin. What respect? Ma yitin the nichla, you're happy. After yitin the nichla, you're happy. Zvid, however, disagrees. He says that the argument of Yechon Shlakish. So this in the first version, when does the Shlakish say that words do not cancel words? Words that are coupled with a ma'aser. You gave her Kiddushin, so it's the ma'aser part of it that elevates that dibur to another level that another dibur cannot just come along and cancel it. However, the second version of the Gemara is that the Shlakish shows that dibur cannot cancel dibur. Forget the ma'aser part of it. Dibur cannot cancel dibur at all. So the Gemara, Rabbi Zvid learned the argument of Rabbi Yechon Shlakish on the next Mishnah. It says there, if she gave reshus l'shlucha l'katcha, she asked the shliach to go ahead and accept Kiddushin on my behalf. But then, let's say it takes him a week to travel to that city, to that destination to receive Kiddushin, and the following day, she just met this other guy, and she decided to marry the second guy. The Kitchas Atzma, she accepted Kiddushin from the second guy. So we say as follows: Im Shalach Kadmu, if her acceptance of Kiddushin from guy number 2 preceded her shliach's acceptance of Kiddushin from guy number 1, Kiddushin. Then guy number 2 is she's Mekudesh guy number 2 and not number 1. But Im Shalach Kadmu English Kiddushin, but if the shliach is first, then she's Mekudesh to the first guy. What about the question is, like Kitchas Atzma, what happened? There she did an act. She went to another person and she accepted Kiddushin another person. Okay, so this ma'aser cancels the dibur that she said to the shliach. What happens if, like Kitchas Atzma, she didn't do anything in the world of action, but the chazubah, she just changed her mind. She changed her mind. Doesn't matter what she told the shliach. She changed her mind. The question is, can she change her mind? Rabbi Yechon says chazeres. Rabbi Yechon says she can change your mind, and the Shlakish says ain't chazeres. The Shlakish said you cannot change your mind because one word cannot cancel another word. There's no ma'aser on her part. She's not the one who's giving anything. She didn't receive any money. She is sending a shliach to receive something. At the moment, nothing happened. Rabbi Yechon. Now again over here, it's a little bit more than just dibur because she put something into action. She got a shliach going, so it's a bit more than just dibur. And the Shloki says that a regular dibur cannot cancel even the minutest amount of activity. Rabbi Yechon said that's how someone learned. Rabbi Yechon says chizeres also about liber. Rabbi Yechon says yes, words can cancel. The Shloki says ain't chizeres, cannot cancel also liber about liber. So now we have the same questions. When it comes to truma, if he canceled the shliach, im actually tarim bitul. If let's say he cancels here before the shliach actually went ahead and gave truma, ain't too much of truma. The shliach is doing is nothing. So we see clearly that words can cancel words. Question of the Shlokish. Amar Rava says, "Hocha ma'askina." You know what we're talking about over here? Taste, however, before we go any further, Taste, however, makes a comment. We're definitely not talking about that she told the shliach, "I don't want you to go anymore and get the Kiddushin." Because how can anybody say that she cannot change her mind? She wants to get married to a guy. She told the shliach, "Go get me Kiddushin from that person." Then she found out something. She wasn't interested in him anymore. Of course, she could change her mind. There's nothing to talk about there. That it's talking about she did not mention a word to the shliach. And the question is now, what happens? She changed her mind, but she did not inform the shliach. Is the shliach canceled or not? That's the question. Anyway, and over here, the way we're learning that you can't tell me whether Kiddushin we're talking about there's a Maisa and here there's no Maisa, because we're talking about now the woman accepting the Kiddushin. There's no Maisa there either. So here we see that words can cancel words. So my answer is no. The case of is talking about where the balabas canceled by doing an act. How? Kiddushin called the balabais, the Thomas carrier. The balabais went into his field and gave his own truma. It's an act. That's why it cancels, says the Shlokish, but words alone couldn't cancel. The Shlokish asked a question out to Rabbi Yechon on the same question we had on top of the page. All the kalim become complete when you think about it. But to cancel it, you have to do a ma'isa. So we see clearly only an act can cancel things, but machshava can't cancel anything. So I understand why machshava can't cancel an act. That we understand. An act is much stronger than just words. Why can one thought cancel another thought? He answered the same before. Tumah is different because the thought of by tumah is considered an act from the pasuk kiyitin and kiyutan. It says it's written kiyitin when you place the water. The kiyutan, the water came by itself. Okay, it has a possible kiyutan has to be that you have to be happy, and that's as if you put them. So we see that by tumah, thinking is like a ma'isa. So you're happy. Rabbi Yechon asked the Shlokish a question. Hashleget means you tend to get to your wife through a shliach, we give a shliach, and you reach the shliach, or sholach acharav shliach, there's another shliach to the shliach. Normally, get shel satzach batlu, the get that I gave you is cancelled. Hareze bottle, the get is cancelled. Here it's mamish a case of words, So before we explained when the first version where the shlokish hold, it's not just words, it's a words with a ma'isa by Kiddushin. You already did the whole ma'isa by giving the money, and get the shliach still has to give the woman the get. That's why it's in the realm of words, and that's why you could cancel fine. But now in this version, you're telling us that even the realm of words. Even the realm of words, you can't cancel. Even though we explained that at least by you made a shliach, but get the same thing. You made a shliach, and yet it says here that you could cancel. Kashan l'shlokish, you to the shlokish. You have a good question. Now the Gemara concludes. That words can cancel words. Said even in the first version where you even let's say in the first case, let's say if nobody came along. If nobody came along and said 30 days, and he changed his mind, you tell me that Allah Rabbi Yechon that dibur can cancel dibur? Let me ask you a question. You can argue in the first case of our mission, the man did a ma'isa, and yet you're telling me that he can change his mind. That means that dibur could even cancel. You gave the money to the woman already, but because there are words coupled with it, which are the primary part of it, you have to say and after 30 days. And you tell me, but the dibur can cancel it. I feel you tell me Allah that can cancel. So kash, even though there's a ma'isa involved, so kashi hilchas. I have a problem with halachas. Why? Here he tells Allah that words can cancel words, even though the strong word because it's coupled with an act, giving her money. The kaimlon, and yet in another place. Halacha is like a Nachman. What's the Rab Nachman? The boy, we asked a question. Let's say he told the shliach who he sent to say, give a get to his wife. He said, I'm canceling that. The question is, can you reuse the same get again? A month later, you decide to divorce her again. Can you reuse the get? Nachman says, you can use the get again. Now the question is, why? You canceled it. Since you tell me that Dibur Kimavatal, even something with a Maisa, Dibur with a Maisa, and by get also, there's a little Maisa you already get, and there's Dibur, you have to have them. So Nachman says you could cancel it. So we see that Rav Nachman says that you can use it again, which means that it's not, the get itself is not cancelled. Why? Because Dibur cannot cancel anything to do with even a little bit of a Maisa. So how can we rectify these two psukim? When it comes to Kiddushin, we say even though he gave her money, Abiyachim says, yeah, you can cancel your Dibur and say I don't want to get married to her. When it comes to Gittin, you wrote the get and you say I'm canceling the get is still valid. It's not cancelled. Rav Sheshes is the one who says you cannot use it again. The Kaimel Nachman. What are you comparing? According to Rav Nachman, he the bottling metoida shliach metoida getle bottle. He didn't say I'm canceling the get. He's saying I'm canceling the shlichus, but the get itself is still effective, and that's why you can use the get. When he just used those words, don't give her the get. He just meant to cancel the shlichus. He never meant to cancel. So now there's a big argument to show what happens if Itaka said words. I want to cancel the get. Is the get canceled or not? Seems like money here clearly. The only reason why it isn't is because he didn't say so. But if he would have said so clearly, it would have been cancelled. Other than saying disagree. Talking about it further, Mikadesh L'Sheni. What happens in this case here? After 30 days, you're engaged to me. Another guy comes along. Shima comes along, gives her 2 weeks with before the 30 days come up. She's engaged to the second person. Which means that what? That the second person is Mekudesh to her forevermore. Comes day number 30, but I say, now kicks in the first guy's Kiddushin. No, there's no Kiddushin there at all. Because there's no Kiddushin until after day number 30, but by the time day number 30 comes along, she's a married woman. Shmuel says, no, Mekudesh is L'Sheni ad Lamed Yom. He's only engaged to the second person till day number 30. But La'achal Lamed Yom, Poki Kiddushin Sheni v'gam Kiddushin. The second person Kiddushin disappears, and the first Kiddushin kicks in. Very difficult to understand. As the Gemara says, Yosher al-Chizuk al-Kashli, he doesn't understand. Kiddushin Sheni in my pocket. What do you mean the second Kiddushin? Once day number 15, the second guy gave her Kiddushin and she's engaged. That's it. How does day number 30 disappear? You understood that their argument is talking about the case where he said after 30 days, and you don't understand. So how can the Kiddushin of the guy number 2, day number 15, disappear? But Rav Yehuda told us, Asefa Master. Rav Yehuda told us that in fact this argument is to do with the second case. What was the second case? Where we added the word ma'achsha. He said, Reuben said, you're engaged to me ma'achsha from now after 30 days. And comes along day number 15, Shimon gives her Kiddushin. And here we have an argument in Rabbi Shmuel. What happens day number 30? How do we understand when you say from today till after day number 30? There's 2 ways of understanding. One way is that it's a Tanai. That if comes day number 30, we both decide to continue. That's how Rashi learns. Others learn comes day number 30, we're both still alive. Then you're engaged to me retrospectively from 30 days ago. So it's a Tanai. And then if another person comes along in the middle, comes day number 30, he disappears, because like if she was already a married woman from day number 1. Or is it Chazar? Or do we say when he says from today and then he changes his mind, you know what? Let's wait till 30 days and we'll get engaged then. And if it's Chazara, comes along day number Shimon, another person gave the Kedusha, day number 15, she's engaged to a second person. So Rav is going to learn, we're not sure what the words mean. Not that we're not sure how to interpret his thoughts, but we're not sure what the words mean. And as we'll see in the Gemara, Shmuel says, no. Shmuel says it's, what do you call it? Shmuel says that she's definitely, engaged to the first person because it's a Tanai. It's not a question. There's no question. There's definitely a Tanai. Comes day number 30 if we're still around. Retrospectively, therefore, guy number 2 doesn't exist. So more explains. Rav says forevermore. We're not sure who she engaged to, person number 1 or person number 2. And Shmuel says mikudeshes the Einim till day number 30 we're in doubt. After days, the second guy is engaged and the second guy disappears and engaged the first guy. I'm going to explain. The Rav Mesapkla, he's not sure. How do we understand it? Is it a condition or is it changing in mind? The Shmuel is convinced that Tanoya have 100% is a condition, it becomes retrospective. And in fact, very similar to an argument that we learned in Gemara Gittin already, and it goes as follows. The Tanya we learned, if a guy says Mahayim, I want this divorce to be for today, and after I die. Now we know he cannot give a get after you die, but there's two ways of understanding what he means. Does it mean that it should be that if this person says Reuben says if I die, then the get is retrospective. I don't want you to marry and stuck with my brother, so that's tonight. Or he's saying, you know what? I don't want to get to be now. I want to wait to get till after I die, which of course is not a valid get, and therefore she is a widow and she has to marry the brother. That's one opinion. Get the get. We're not sure what he meant. We're not sure it's a Tanai Chazara. And Rebbe says, because I get definitely it's a Tanai. Rebbe says definitely it's a condition because everyone knows you cannot give again after you die, and therefore it's retrospective, and therefore she's not a widow. She is a divorcee, and she doesn't have to marry the brother. So the Rav will hold like the Chachamim because we're not sure what it means, and the Shmuel holds like Rebbe. Says if this is an identical argument, the name of Rav halachic Rabban, the name of Shmuel halachic Rebbe. Why argue the same thing as if and what do you call it? And avoid talking about the brisa? Just say they're arguing about who's off of the brisa. So we need it. You know, I have to say, because if the Rav would have just said halacha rabban, I would have thought, Hasam, you know why halacha rabban? We're not sure because maybe he changed his mind because he's sending his wife away from him. You know, it's a difficult time. Maybe he changed his mind and wants to give some more time. There we can entertain the idea that maybe it's chazara. The Kreva said, you want to marry her. So obviously you want to live with her. Why would you think you want to change your mind suddenly? I want to wait till after 30 days. So anyone agrees with Shmuel that definitely it's a condition. That it's retrospective. The Tanai have it's a Tanai. The Shmuel and the other way around. The Shmuel would have said the halacha like Rebbe. I would have thought over there, you know why Rebbe says definitely it's a Tanai? Because everyone knows you cannot give a get after your person dies. When he changes his mind and says, I want the get to be effective after I die. What's the point? It's wasted words. Because once a person is dead, you can't give a get because you're no longer married to her anyway. So therefore, maybe that's why Rebbe says definitely it's a Tanai. Havamina Hosel didn't get lachamisa. Over here, maybe he did change his mind. That you know what? Let's wait another 30 days and see whether we really made for each other. If you need both. Look, time made the Rav. If you follow Rav, he says you're not sure if it's a Tanai or if it's a Chazara. Let's say Reuben comes along. He says to her, "You're engaged to me from today." Okay. Remember, we're not sure. Another guy came along and says, "You're engaged to me now, and after 20 days." Another guy came along and said, "You're engaged to me from now, and after 10 days." In other words, we're not sure what the words mean. Tanai Chazara, right? We're not sure. In other words, like this. We're not so like this. It doesn't mean Tanai or doesn't mean Chazara. So the first person is if it means Tanai. If it means tonight, then the first person comes day, even though you have a bunch of other people in between, comes day number 30, it's retrospective to the first person because he was the very first person to give Kiddushin. So the first person engaged. If you say that it means Chazara, he changed his mind. So every one of them changed their mind. And the last person is the one who said 10 days from now is the one that got engaged because come day number 10, he didn't change his mind. So therefore, you're engaged to me. And the other people are saying, day number 20, day number 30. By the time day number 20 comes along, she's already a married woman. So either the first person or the last person is engaged to her. We're not sure if it's Tanai or Chazara. But all the middle people are definitely not engaged. Whichever way you look at it, you're not engaged. That's what Abaye says. It's a condition, which means it's retrospective. Then the Kama Kedusha, the Hanla Kedusha, only the first person is married to her, and all the other ones that came along afterwards, it's a married woman. But if you're actually changing your mind, the Basa Kedusha, if you're changing your mind, then the last person is the one engaged to her because each one said, from today, and they said, 30 days we'll get engaged, or in 20 days, or in 10. And obviously 10 is the first thing that came along. The Basa Kedusha, Hanla Kedusha. So what's Abaye telling us? That's obvious. No, I could have learned a different way. I could have learned not that's a legal question. What do the words mean? Maybe it's more a question of what this person meant. No, but the language itself is pretty vague, and it could mean either one, conditional or you're changing your mind. And each person, we're not sure. So then even the middle person might be engaged. What happens if the first and last person meant? What do you call it? Chazara. And the last person, if the first person meant Chazara and the last person meant what do you call it? The last person meant Tanai and the middle person meant Chazara. If each person could have meant something like this, it could be different. Why? You need to get from each person. For example, maybe the first person changed his mind. The second person meant tonight. And the third person changed his mind as well. So the person said 30 days changed his mind. Let's wait till after 30. The person said 10 changed his mind. And so let's say after 10. But the person who said 20 days meant tonight. He said if 20 days from now we still want to get married to each other, then it's retrospective. So which person will be married to her? Not the first, not the last, but the middle one. So you'll need to get from each person. That's what we'd have thought. Says the Gemara. I would have thought, you can interpret it both ways. You need to divorce from every single person because maybe all the other ones changed their mind. And the middle one is the one who meant the conditional that when that day comes along and we both still want to get married to each other, it's retrospective. So he's the first one. Kamal says no. It's not that the words can be interpreted two ways. It's a legal question. What do these words legally mean? And therefore, it's either, we're not sure if it's Chazorah tonight, so either the first or the last person. All the people in between don't count. However, Rabbi Yechon has a big Kiddush. Ula Amar Rabbi Yechon. Ula says in the Rabbi Yechon, Afilu Meya Teifsim. If 100 people come along and each one guy says you're engaged to me from now in 100 days, and the one says you're engaged to me now 99 days, and so on and so forth. Each person has some connection to her, a little bit of a Kiddushin. What does that mean? Even 100 people have something in her. Let me explain to you what Rabbi Yechon means. Each person left some part of the woman free. Like when you build a brick wall, when you build a brick wall, you don't put one on top of the other. So you say that each brick fits exactly on top of the other brick. It will collapse. It will fall down. Rather you have one row of bricks on the bottom, and then in the next row of bricks straddle two bricks, and the next row straddle two bricks. So each brick leaves a little space for another brick on top of it. Part brick here and a part another brick here. Each brick leaves space for two bricks. So the same thing over here. Each one came along and left a little bit because he said ma'achshav. He said it's not 100% the woman. That is how Rashi learns. It comes out of a pelodic thing. That means that one woman can be connected to 100 people, which is a big chiddush. And then there's an argument according to Rashi. Does that mean she's allowed to live with each one physically? So most holy can't. It's only legally, she's as if she's engaged to many people and she needs a divorce from all these people, but she cannot live with any of them because it's Kiddushin Shalai Nimsul Labi. It's Kiddushin that can never turn into anything and be. And according to Bai, which is the halacha that says that the Kiddushin is chal, but you can never really consummate it because she's like sort of married to 10 other people. But it's a pella because we learn what I'm saying there that you can't have two halves. You can't have a woman married to two people. But over there, we're talking about like fully married to two people. Here, we're talking about a little bit of a part. And your taste is very uncomfortable with Rashi Pshat, but that's how Rashi learns. Mostly, Rab Chinim has a question. It says, Mahayim ula achamisa. If a man says to a woman, this get is yours from today, ula achamisa. And after the person passes away. Is get the ain't a get, right? It's a get and it's not a get. It's a suffix get, and we're not sure if he's changing his mind, so then it's not a divorce, or he's saying it's retrospective as divorce. But the if the guy dies, so again, we're not sure. Maybe she's a widow. There's no din of Yavama. Maybe he changed his mind. Sorry. And maybe he changed his mind, she's a widow, therefore she has to marry the brother-in-law. Or maybe he didn't, it's retrospective, and therefore she's a divorcee, doesn't have to marry. So what she should do? She has to get a chalitza from the brother-in-law. She cannot live with him because if she is a widow, you're not allowed to live with your brother's widow. So, what do you call it? What do you call it? She's so it's something what she is, she only gets chalitza. So you want according to Rav, according to Rav, that proves his point. Yeah, we're not sure what it means. Is it changing your mind or is it tonight? And that's why you can only get chalitza. Fine. Shmuel also, even though Shmuel holds is definitely a tonight, so therefore definitely she is a divorcee. It's retrospective, so definitely she's free, doesn't need a chalitza. The author here, the Rabbanon said before, Rabbanon hold like Rebbe, the Rav holds like the Rabbanon. That is, it's questionable what it means. But I pass him like Rebbe. Okay, Shmuel is not a problem. And Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan said what? That when you said you're leaving part of the woman for the next person, each one has a little bit of connection. It's called Gita the Meshayv. In this case here, if he says that divorce today, after the person passed away, which means it's not a complete get. In other words, you left part of her connected to you and part of it sort of disconnected, like just like Rabbi Yochanan said when it comes to marriage. And a get that leaves part of her connected to you is not a get. Any strings attached, we said before, is not a valid get. So it's not a valid get, which means she's a widow. If she's a widow, she should have yibum. Not just chalitza. Yibum yabum. Why can't you have yibum? Says the Gemara. Rabbi says, Rabbi, get lahaitzi. Rabbi says, he's very different. What's the role of a get? The role of a get is to separate her from her husband. Umishalaichi, what does death do? Also separates from her husband. So masha shai get came out to me. So I can argue the get started that severance, the misa finished it, but in this case, since the get started the severance, and then he died, she is now considered what do you call it? Perhaps a divorcee, and therefore she cannot marry the brother-in-law. Said, "Me dummy. Well, how can you bunch together a get and misa? Get might seem it's just yavam. Get severs the ties to the husband, and therefore she has no connection to the brother-in-law. Misa says that she now connected as a zika to the brother-in-law. Machnes is yavam. They have two opposite results. So what do you tell me? You can bind the two together, and therefore she's a free woman. Elmar Bai says, you know why? According to Rabbi Yechon, you know why we say it's not a valid get, not a valid get. She should be a widow. She should marry the brother-in-law. Abai says, you know why we don't? Because of a gzeira. How's the time of my gzeira? We are worried. If a man would have said instead of hayoim la'achamisa, which is what we say that starting today, but it doesn't completely happen till the person dies. So therefore, it's a little bit at a time. What happened? He said hayoim today imati. If it's a today, if I die, which is clearly a condition, which means if he dies, she's clearly not a widow, she's a divorcee. If she's a divorcee, she's definitely not married the brother-in-law. But not everybody talking about chacham, and they don't know the difference between mahayim ula achamisa, which over there, the get is not really a valid get, and therefore she's considered a widow, and she's not a married brother-in-law, or hayim imati, which is really a condition, and therefore it's retrospective, and therefore she's a divorcee. People don't know the difference. And they'll think, oh, she can marry a brother-in-law. That's why we'll say, you know what, you cannot marry a brother, only do chalitza. Imati hareze get, and therefore people make that mistake. Says the Gemara, because if he says mahayim imati, it is a valid get, and she's totally free from her brother-in-law. Says the Gemara, the nigza mahayim imati the tachlit. So then, why don't you make a rule? Every person who says mahayim today imati, if I pass away, which is retrospective, which means that she's a divorcee, let us tell them, you know what, you still need a chalitza, because people might the tachlit because they'll think, oh, you don't need a chalitza, so they'll make a mistake and think if a person says today and after I die, you don't need anything either, when in fact over there she's a widow, she does. Says the Gemara, says no, we can't, because another mistake might happen. If you're going to say, if a person says mahayim imati, which legally she's a divorcee because it's retrospective and she has no connection to brother-in-law, if you're going to tell her to have a chalitza because just in case, then people will think, right, she has a mitzvah yibum. They'll say, why can't she marry? If she wants to marry the brother, let her marry. Mitzvah bemis. Says the Gemara, no, if that's what you're worried about, so hachanam here too. In the case of you're saying that really that technically she's not really divorced. She needs to get involved with the brother-in-law, and therefore we say to have a chalitza. And the only reason why we don't want to marry in case you make a mistake, then don't say chalitza.